Sir, Trevor says immediately, she is too powerful and undisciplined. Yes, I know, says Thomas impatiently. She's very impressive. She's exactly what I'm looking for. She has to be trained, says Trevor with conviction. Just give her some direction. She'll be careful if she knows it's her own life on the line, says Thomas dismissively. I'm not talking about what she would do consciously. It's what she might do without realizing it. She's too sensitive, says Trevor fervently. Nonsense. Look at what she's done with no training at all. She's the first person to go into another dimension and return to this dimension with her memory fully intact. I need to see what else she's capable of, says Thomas impatiently. Sir, I'm afraid this girl may pick up information from the chair itself. Even though you've rebuilt and re-engineered the chair, things happened, Trevor says emphatically. And what if she picks up on that without realizing what she's doing? No, she needs to be in that chair today, says Thomas loudly. Then lowering his voice, he adds, Trevor, please sit down a moment. We need to talk. Trevor sits stiffly in a chair facing Thomas. We're out of time, says Thomas. We've hit a layer of molten rock, and now we're forced to use the Tesla device. Are you serious? That thing nearly flattened an entire block in Manhattan, says Trevor, horrified. Yes and no, says Thomas calmly. We've been using that device, but we have also discovered plans for something much more powerful. Trevor sits back in her chair, narrows her eyes, and says, After the New York incident, Tesla told reporters that he had the technology which could, and I quote, split the Earth in two. Please tell me you're not dabbling with this. Well, maybe it could split the Earth in two, but we know how to control the device, says Thomas, as if this is child's play and he already has everything under control. Really? You do know that Tesla had to shatter his first device with a sledgehammer to turn it off. Trevor, it doesn't matter, says Thomas irritably. We've got it under control. We're making our way through the molten layer, but we need to be sure that the cavern exists at the exact coordinates. Remote viewers have seen it, but I need boots on the ground. Sir, we're not at war down there. Not yet. What do you mean by that? It's classified. Can you tell me why this cavern is so important? The cavern is connected to a tunnel system that's vital to the work we're doing. Then why send a teenage girl? Because she's the only one who's ever managed to travel between dimensions with her mind intact. Trevor sighs and says nervously, Can I at least tell her what's happened in the past? Absolutely not, Thomas roars. The last thing you want to do is plant some fearful image into her mind, especially of something you do not want her consciously materializing into this reality. Never mind, I'll do it myself, Thomas says as he strides to the door with Trevor hurrying to catch up. But the stormy look on his face transforms instantly as he opens the door for Trevor and steps out with her into the hallway. Looking directly at you, Thomas smiles charismatically and says, I'll be working with you this afternoon. Then looking at Matthew, he says evenly, Trevor will be escorting you to your testing area today on level 5, and this will be the last day of testing for both of you. Tonight you'll receive your aptitude scores and then decide where you prefer to work. Although Trevor is trying to hide her discomfort, you know something unexpected has just occurred. She seemed anxious when Thomas announced he'd be testing you, but she seemed even more upset when he told her to escort Matthew to his testing area. The moment he said level 5, it seemed as if Thomas had delivered a coded message, and Trevor was unhappy about the direction she was supposed to take. However, she is disciplined and says briskly, "This way, Matthew," as she walks swiftly down the hall. Walking to the lab with Thomas, you say bluntly, "Are you going to try to make me be a remote viewer?" "Of course not," says Thomas warmly, as if he's your best friend. "Aptitude tests show us how high you can go at this moment in time. But if you want to wash dishes or work in the commissary or change bedpans in the hospital, it's totally up to you." You know you should feel relieved, but you still don't trust him. Your mind tries to convince you that you're just upset about other things, and that you have no reason to distrust Thomas. He has always been kind and polite. He is probably the reason that you were both taken to the base and saved from whatever was going on with the terrorist attacks. You know it's just a feeling, it isn't logical. But the feeling suddenly reminds you of Asha talking about the program switching on and off. It was that unsafe feeling you felt when you and Matthew were hiking and you needed to turn back. But under the circumstances, there is no turning back, and nothing you can say or do. Thomas pushes open the door to the lab and holds it for you as you step inside. "Please have a seat," says Thomas, casually indicating the Montauk chair. "I'm going to be very honest. You are an extraordinary young lady. For years, I've been trying to find someone who could physically enter another dimension. That's what happens when you travel through time and space. You move out of your own dimension and into another. Only one other person has managed to go into another dimension and return, but he had no memory of where he had been. Others have gone but haven't returned, and we don't know why. We don't know if they lose their memory going between dimensions or if something happens and they're killed. But regardless of the reason, no one has ever returned. Though we didn't intend for you to physically go into another dimension, you've done it twice, and you returned with your memory fully intact. I've been waiting for you, Amelia, for over 20 years, says Thomas encouragingly. You are grateful this is your last test, and you are already making plans to do anything other than remote viewing, or whatever it is you're actually doing. Washing dishes is starting to sound like a much better option. At least it would be calm and your heart wouldn't be in your throat. This is the final test you're required to complete. You'll be perfectly safe. You won't be going anywhere. But there are a few things you need to know. It's imperative that you do not allow your mind to wander. I know things can pop into your head, but do not focus on anything except what I'm telling you. This test is in 2 parts. First, I'm going to tell you to imagine something. I want to see how easily your thoughts can materialize things. I know you can unconsciously create, Thomas says, smiling, but can you consciously create? The second part of your test will not require your imagination. I have the chair programmed to create an image in your mind, so you won't be going anywhere with your physical body. You'll be right here in this room, perfectly safe and protected. I simply want you to tell me what you experience. I promise you'll be in that chair the entire time. And do you promise this is the last time I'll have to do this? You ask cautiously. I promise. Scout's honor. says Thomas smoothly as he walks into the observation booth and firmly closes the door. As he dims the lights, Thomas speaks gently over the intercom. Empty your mind and imagine a rose. You take a deep breath, close your eyes, and imagine a pink rose. Open your eyes. You open your eyes, and there on your lap is a pink rose, exactly as you had imagined it, slightly between a bud and a fully opened rose. Blinking and filled with astonishment, you grin at Thomas. He smiles broadly and nods encouragingly. Now hold open your hand and imagine an apple, he says. You hold open your hand, palm up, close your eyes, and begin imagining an apple. At first you think of a red apple, and then change your mind and think of a green Granny Smith apple instead. Instantly you feel an apple in your hand. When you open your eyes, it is half red delicious and half green Granny Smith. You burst out laughing and look up to see that Thomas is equally amused. You then take a bite of the apple on each side. It tastes exactly as you had imagined. Now, this is the final part of your test. I've programmed the chair to show you someplace unfamiliar. It isn't in another time or a different dimension, so you have nothing to fear. You just need to relax. You won't feel any discomfort. Suddenly you feel raw terror gripping your heart and throat. Your eyes flash open and you realize you do have a choice. You jump up from the chair and yell, "No! I'm not doing this! You don't know what can happen! I know you don't! I'd rather wash dishes and change bedpans!" You run to the lab doors and fling them open, only to find armed guards barring your way. You whirl around to face Thomas, who is now striding across the floor like an extremely displeased parent. "Before you decide to leave, there's something you need to see," says Thomas sternly as he shuts and locks the doors. He tries to take your arm, but you pull away. "Don't touch me! You said I'd have a choice!" "And you do. You just need all the facts before you decide. Come with me," he adds as he guides you into the observation room. On the wall above the control panel is a video of Matthew, unconscious in a hospital bed, with a ventilator, a breathing tube, and a central venous line. Many lives will be saved or lost, depending on whether or not you cooperate, says Thomas sternly. "What have you done to him?" you scream. "I didn't want it to come to this, but this is important," says Thomas unsympathetically. "What I'm asking you to do is vital to national security, and maybe even to the survival of humanity." "What did you do to him?" you yell furiously. "He's in a medically induced coma. He'll be fine if you cooperate," says Thomas succinctly. "Now, I will admit I haven't been totally honest with you. The chair is programmed to take you someplace. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to be frightened. The chair responds to your feelings, so it's important that you relax. I promise you'll be perfectly safe when you arrive, but you do need to return as soon as possible. As usual, just say, 'Go back' if you have any problems." You stand glaring at him furiously. "My dear, there are always difficulties for medically induced coma patients waking up after 3 days. The longer he's in this coma, the more he'll become addicted to the morphine and other drugs going into his system. Now, you need to sit down in the chair and cooperate, he says, as if you are a child and he's putting you in time out. Livid, you fly out the door of the observation room and sit down in the chair. You hear the booth door shut, and then watch angrily as Thomas fiddles around with settings on the control panel. As you sit fuming, angrier than you've ever been in your entire life, you close your eyes, clench your fists, and suddenly see an image in your mind of an immense hairy beast, at least 15 feet tall, with razor-sharp teeth. You imagine it rampaging through the lab, tearing everything to shreds, ripping Thomas and the soldiers from limb to limb. It is the most horrifying thing you have ever imagined, and yet it gives you a sense of immense satisfaction at the same time. You smile at the thought, but your amusement is short-lived as you become aware of an ungodly stench. Opening your eyes, you see an enormous creature, 15 feet tall, bent down and leaning in toward you, its eyes burning and its mouth wide open, ready to sever your head from your body. Petrified, unable to breathe, you sit perfectly still, looking helplessly toward Thomas as he presses a button. Instantly you feel as if you're about to start dreaming. It is that feeling of being between two realities, aware of both your waking reality and passing into a dream state, yet not fully in one place or the other. You know the creature is there, but your senses can't detect it. Everything is suddenly still and silent, as if the creature has moved on into the next moment in time without you. Infuriated, the monster wildly grasps at the empty air where your body has been, and then tears apart the chair, ripping the wiring to shreds. You see all of it, but you are no longer in the Montauk chair. Suddenly you find yourself in complete and total darkness, nauseous from the adrenaline pumping through your body. The deafening silence is only broken by your rapid breathing and the roaring beat of your heart. Desperately and cautiously you feel the ground around and beneath you. It feels smooth and cool, definitely some kind of natural rock surface. "Is anyone here?" you scream, dizzy and disoriented. The cavern echoes back. From the continuous echoes, you know you are in an immense space, and yet it feels as if the walls are collapsing in all around you. "Hello!" you scream. Nothing. A spasm of terror tightens in your chest as an intense jolt of panic sends shockwaves through your body. Shaking in fear, your brain screams for you to run, but there's nothing you can do. You can't even imagine where you are or why you've been sent here. There's no air movement and not a single sound. No water dripping, no insects or flutter of bat wings, nothing. Only the sound of your frantically beating heart. "Go back!" you yell, but you're not surprised when nothing happens. "Hello!" you yell again, as tears flood your eyes, and a sick, anxious feeling churns inside. No one is coming for you, and there's no way back. "I'm here," whispers a familiar child's voice out of the darkness. "Asha?" you say, bursting into tears of relief. "Is that you?" "Yes, it's me," says Asha, gently touching your arm. You grasp her hand, Thank you. Thank you for coming to get me. Then you reach out, fumbling a bit in the dark as you hug Asha. I'm so sorry I didn't listen to you when you told me to stay and learn to navigate the game. I've messed up everything. You sob miserably.
It's all right, says Asha soothingly. It's not too late, but we need to hurry. You can't go back the way you came, and we have a long way to go before we can get out of here. Hold my hand and I'll lead you.
How did you find me? You say, relaxing a little. Asha giggles.
I'm tuned into you like a radio station. Most of the time I don't interfere because it's your game. But you and I had a prior agreement.
Prior? You mean like before I was born? You say, still trying to get your head around the concept.
Yes, we agreed that I would only intervene if you would certainly die without me.
Then with a laugh, Asha adds,
But anything short of certain death, at least from the perspective of the game, and you're on your own.
Well, that's strangely comforting, I guess, you say tentatively. How can you see in the dark?
Well, most humans don't know this, but your entire body is capable of seeing. It's just that you've only developed your eyes. The energy of light is a form of communication that you understand. But the energy of darkness also communicates, and I perceive darkness just as easily as you understand light. But it's not as dark in here as you think,
says Asha encouragingly. She stops for a moment, lets go of your hand, and then puts her hand on your shoulder to steady you in the dark.
Try closing your eyes and cover them with your hands. Wait about 20 seconds and then open your eyes with your hands stretched out in front of you, fingers spread. You follow Asha's directions and see the darkness created by your fingers with a faint grey hue outlining each finger. I see it, you say excitedly. But where are we? We're deep inside Earth's crust, says Asha matter-of-factly. But then where's the light coming from? You say, as Asha leads the way along a descending pathway. Is it shining in through a cave entrance somewhere? No, we're nowhere near a cave entrance. In fact, we're miles below the deepest part of the ocean. But then why is the temperature so comfortable? You say thoughtfully. I thought it would be really hot miles underground. We're deeper underground than humans on the surface have ever experienced, and this is what the temperature is here. It's very mild. Right now we're heading into a zone of light that shines through the crust. The deeper we go, the lighter it will become. But how will we get out if we're going deeper? You ask, puzzled. Don't worry, there's a way out, says Asha confidently. Can we go any faster? You say, desperate to get back to Matthew. I mean, how did you get to me so quickly? I thought of you and my body followed, says Asha, as if this type of thing happens every day. It's sort of like the Montauk chair, but I don't need anything mechanical. I know this may sound hard to believe, but every human being is capable of traveling through time and space, and even into parallel worlds, or alternate realities with nothing more than their imagination and will. You mean traveling in our minds like an imaginative thing? You say, confused. No, I mean your avatar body is capable of going anywhere in the universe by means of teleportation. That's how I came to you. It's like think and go, says Asha, laughing. You can even bilocate, which means your physical body can be in two places at once. How do I do that? I mean, teleportation, you say. Well, every human avatar body possesses these abilities in potential. Think of the way an acorn has the potential to become a mighty oak tree. But before that can happen, the acorn has to be planted in fertile soil, and then receive enough water and sunlight to sprout and grow. It's the same for you, but in your case, the fertile soil is your consciousness, your thoughts and feelings, especially your feelings. The more powerfully you feel something, the more you'll see it in your experience.
I still don't understand that, you say frankly. I mean, I believe what you said. I've heard of yogis in India teleporting, so that must mean I have the potential to do it too, but that doesn't mean I can just make it happen.
Well, it all has to do with what you believe in the most, says Asha. Think of what you really, really believe, without doubt. For instance, think of some things that anyone in the world might believe in.
I don't know, you say thoughtfully. God, gravity, myself, night and day.
Perfect, says Asha. Now, I'm going to tell you something you believe in more than any of those things.
Really? You say, taken aback.
Yes, says Asha confidently. Imagine you're walking down a narrow path through the woods and you come face to face with a grizzly bear. I can promise you would believe in that grizzly bear more than you ever believed in God or gravity or yourself or anything else.
Oh, well, that's true, you exclaim, laughing.
You see, the things you believe in more than anything else are the things that you fear. If you believed you could teleport as strongly as you would believe in that grizzly bear, you could go anywhere in the universe instantly.
But how do I stop being afraid? You say hopelessly. I'm afraid to be here, and I'm afraid to go back. I'm afraid that if I manage to get back, it won't matter because there's nothing I can do. It's a military installation, for God's sake. I have no power. I can't change anything, but I can't just leave Matthew there to suffer or die.
Okay, sit down for a minute, says Asha sympathetically.
All right, you say, grateful to rest.
Now close your eyes and feel how powerless you are.
It's so dark I don't even have to close my eyes, you say glumly. And I don't have to try to feel powerless. I am powerless.
I understand, says Asha kindly. Now, I'm going to show you how to navigate the program more effectively. Wait, let me put it this way. You're always effective. You've mastered the ability to get things you do want and the things you don't want. But I'm going to show you how to get more of the things you do want. This will work with any feelings, anger, resentment, fear, it doesn't matter. But for now, think about feeling powerless.
Well, that's easy enough. You sigh, sure that you are doomed to failure.
When you think about being powerless, where do you feel it in your body?
You put your hand on your chest and say, right here in my heart.
Okay, now drop the label, the word powerless, and just feel the physical feeling in your chest. Can you feel that it's just energy?
Yes.
Now breathe,
says Asha slowly.
Take your time and imagine breathing right into that place in your body.
You take a few deep breaths. With each breath, you feel the energy slowly breaking up. It takes a few minutes, but gradually the feeling becomes weaker and weaker until it completely disappears. How is this possible? You say, mystified. I don't feel that tightness anymore. I mean, it's weird, but I actually feel okay.
Think of animals in nature. When they're afraid, they respond with freeze, fight, or flight. But in a few minutes, they shake it off and go on with their day. Humans are just the opposite. They hoard their fear. They hold it inside and sometimes hang on to it their entire lives. Of course, there's nothing wrong with holding on to fear. It's your game. You can do whatever you want. But keep in mind your beliefs determine your experiences.
That seems way too simple, you say, shaking your head.
Well, it is simple, but it's not easy. You have to be willing to give up believing in things that frighten you.
I can do that, you say, standing up and dusting yourself off.
Do you think you could do it if there was a snake in front of you right now?
Says Asha. Oh my God, you say, fearfully grasping Asha's arm so tightly the little girl yelps. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you. Do you see a snake? Is there really one right here? You say in utter panic, trying to see in the dark.
There's no snake. I just wanted to help you see that it's all easier said than done. It has to be your will to think and feel differently, and it takes practice. Old habits die hard, as they say.
Asha takes your hand and says lightly,
Come on, we're getting closer.
But since you teleported here to get me, couldn't you just hold my hand and teleport me out of here? You say hopefully. Asha giggles.
I'm not Superman. If you're walking, I'm walking.
Of course, I understand, you say. It's just that I need to get back to Matthew. They have him in a coma, and if I don't get back to him in 3 days, I don't know what the drugs will do to him. I don't even know if they'll keep him alive.
If you don't want to get stuck in worry and fear, or repeatedly experiencing things you don't want, just practice focusing on what's here in this moment.
My fear about what might happen to Matthew is what's here in this moment.
Okay, try it again. Where do you feel the feeling?
I feel sick to my stomach.
So, what's next?
What do you mean? I'm supposed to breathe into the feeling?
You don't have to do anything. The question is just whether or not you want a different result. Remember I told you the game's prime directive is Thy will be done?
Yes, you say hesitantly. But if you care about people, you worry about them.
You can absolutely choose that. You can be anxious, worried, fearful, or even feel victimized. But you are the one who's asking to feel more of that. It's really simple. If you feel worried or afraid, you're not in this moment. You're either focused on the past or on the future.
Yeah, but one time I found a snake under a picnic table. Believe me, I was in the moment and I was terrified.
Were you really terrified about that moment, or were you worried about the future?
Oh, you say thoughtfully. Well, I guess you're right.
Focusing on your breath is an easy way to bring your mind back to the moment. And breathing is just, well, it's always a good idea to breathe.
Theoretically, you agree with Asha, but it isn't easy to take your thoughts off of Matthew and what might happen to him. You try breathing, but you forget about it rather quickly, because it literally takes all of your focus just to keep walking in the dark without tripping or falling. It is slow going, and finally you have to stop and rest. Asha offers you water from a handmade leather flask with a faint scent of beeswax, and then hands you some strange food that tastes like fruit, but it is quite firm and not at all juicy. Part of the skin is smooth, like the cap of a mushroom, but the other parts feel like the gills on the bottom of a toadstool.
Are you ready to keep going?
Says Asha earnestly. Oh yes, I'm feeling better and better, actually, you say, amazed at how different your body is beginning to feel. Breathing this air feels wonderful. As you continue walking, the darkness gradually turns milky, and you can finally walk by yourself without holding Asha's hand. The light in the cavern is diffused and emanates from everywhere around you, glowing equally in all directions. It reminds you of dense fog illuminated by sunlight. But it isn't opaque. The light is glowing, yet at the same time perfectly clear. Rising up through the darkness, the forms of stalactites, stalagmites, and saline incrustations reassert themselves on the walls and high ceilings of the massive cavern. But oddly, there are no shadows. Everything is softly and uniformly lit, as if the light is passing through silk. Where is the light coming from? How is it even possible when we're so deep underground? You ask, utterly fascinated by this phenomenon.
It's sunlight. It just has different characteristics than you've been led to believe. When sunlight strikes the Earth's surface, some of the light is reflected, but most of it passes through the Earth in an altered state, such as you see here. We call it revitalized light or rejuvenated darkness, Asha says merrily. But what is it exactly that revitalizes the light, you say slowly, or rejuvenates the darkness? The same thing that will revitalize you as we continue our journey,
says Asha sweetly.
At this depth, the cavern air has a unique life force that supports and maintains everything, from sunlight to plants to human beings who wander in at these depths. No illness exists here. If you had a fatal illness, it would completely disappear in this atmosphere within hours. All caverns at this depth contain the same atmospheric gases.
Why haven't I heard of it before? You ask, puzzled.
Because most humans haven't been deep enough underground to experience any of this. Even Thomas doesn't know what's actually down here. He's been working hard to explore these depths based on legends that he believes are plausible, but no one has ever returned to the base to confirm what he suspects. That's why he's rather desperate for you to make it back.
I don't care whether he's trying to help people or not. He's selfish and mean and not a very good person, you say angrily.
Thomas plays the game his way. You play it your way,
says Asha in a neutral tone. Well, it wasn't my choice to come here. He forced me to come here. He put Matthew in a coma. I hardly think that's me playing it my way, you say indignantly.
One of the things that keeps the game interesting is that you have no idea what you've agreed to with others before you were born,
says Asha mysteriously. I would never agree to what's been happening to me, you say vehemently.
Sometimes what's happening doesn't make sense in the moment, but there may come a time, if your mind is open enough to see, that you'll realize every moment has its own unique perfection, whether you like it at the time or not. You don't know what you're here to do or who you're here to be with, and neither does anyone else. So why not lighten up? You might even have some fun.
You are feeling a bit annoyed to have a 10-year-old talking to you as if she is your mother instead of a kid, but you don't feel like arguing, so you just change the subject. Does it ever get dark down here? You ask.
Nope,
says Asha.
There's always light somewhere on the surface.
I don't feel tired or thirsty or hungry at all. Is there something in the air? You ask.
Well, the air does play a part of that, but your body is also slowing down. You no longer need your heart and lungs working at full capacity the way you did on the surface. What you think of as gravity is changing as well. You'll find that your movements will become almost effortless effortless the more we descend.
You are bursting with questions, but at this point the cavern narrows into a small tunnel, only 10 feet high by 3 feet wide.